Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Let's start with another story about another crazy neighbor. Sit comfortably, and let's see what happens next. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here, and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Neighbor's gutter is flooding my property, didn't want to fix. Okay, I'll pay. Now I won't. Happened about 2 years ago. Friend reminded me of this today. My next-door neighbor's house is slightly elevated higher than mine. His gutter's not buried into a drainage system. It floods my side yard when it rains, and it progressed to flooding my front yard. I've had nice conversations in the past, but he's totally racist when referring to the people who live across the street, who are wonderful, nice people. I approached him about a year ago prior and asked him if we could jointly work on drainage issues. He dismissed me immediately and said, "I don't have any effing money to spend." I said, "Okay, no problem," and let it go for 6 months. I approached him again one day when he was outside and said, "I would like to fix it, and I'll get 3 estimates on the work, and I will pay for it since I'm such a nice guy, and I'd just gotten a bonus at work, and I'm tired of walking through a mud pit." He didn't say anything, and I told him I would get back to him with the plan and need him to sign off for HOA approval. I'm getting estimates at around $2,500 to bury his downspouts and tie in drains to the ground that run to pop-off valves in the back of the house. All 3 estimates wanted to do virtually the same work at around the same cost. So I contact the HOA and put in a request to fix. They then go to him for approval, and he says, "I will not allow him to do the work on my house." Now I'm thinking, your water runoff is flooding my yard, and you don't want to approve and allow me to pay? The HOA comes back and said we talked to him, and he does not want you to fix the issue. 90% of the water is coming from his downspout. So here comes the compliance part. I end up putting in a walkway with shrubs on the side of the house, but that doesn't fix the flooding issue, only helps that I don't have to walk in it. I then filed multiple complaints against my neighbor with the HOA for the damage caused. They send complaint letters to him telling him if he doesn't fix the problem, he'd be fined. He had to hire his own company and fix his own drains the exact way that I was going to do them. Then he asked me if I was going to pay, and I smiled and told him to go F off. So neighbor's downspout on house causes my yard to flood. I offered to fix it and pay for it, $2,500. He stupidly said no. He ended up having to pay for the work himself, and the money I would have spent on paying for it went into putting in a walkway and a bunch of other things in my garden. Cheers. And our second story. Sure, we'll take that aluminum panel off your fence. My parents bought a property on the beach because it's their happy place, and they didn't want to stay at hotels anymore. The place is an older property that needed a lot of love, so we've been renovating it for a good year in our spare time. Our neighbor is an older lady who runs the small motel next door. From the very beginning, she's been quite an annoyance, constantly doing and saying manipulative things such as favors to make us feel like we owe her something, which usually ends in her being allowed to use parts of our property. Fun fact, an inspector that was checking on the renovations once saw her coming towards him and quipped, "Here comes trouble." So the main story involves the side of our property that we share with her. There's a fence that she built and a small alleyway between the fence and our house, which is ours, and has a hose/shower area for when you come back from the beach and want to get the sand off you. As part of the renovations, my dad had some small aluminum panels put in on our side of the fence so that the users of the shower could have privacy. The panels are not visible from the neighbor's property and are completely unobtrusive. Neighbor sees them while passing by and freaks. Frantically calls and texts my dad begging for a call back and saying it's an emergency. My dad makes time to call, assuming the hose might have been broken or something. Nope, just the neighbor throwing a hissy fit over the panels. "Take them down," she insists. My dad's a very busy man and has already had enough of my neighbor's constant annoyances. Her claiming an emergency just for these panels finally made him snap. The malicious compliance. My dad, the amicable man he is, agrees to take the panels down. As part of the renovations, he also has a gate put in front of that small alleyway area. This is not good for my neighbor, because she had made an agreement with my father to use our hose so that her guests could rinse themselves off when coming back from the beach. This precious hose is now behind a locked gate, the key for which my neighbor will not be seeing. On top of that, my father put a chain in front of the parking area of our house, which she was using as extra space for her guests, and where our trash cans are kept. Trash cans which said neighbor was using to throw away her extra trash. Now our neighbor will have to pay extra for a better water plan for her motel, something that she was well aware of and trying to avoid, as she had previously told my dad about the numbers for water plans on her property versus ours, and possibly pay for extra trash cans for her trash. My dad is a very patient man and very hard to get angry, but once you do, you're gonna regret it. And our last story, the business version of catfishing. I used to work for a married couple, Billy, male 52, and Gigi, female 44, who owned a business services/public relations agency. It lasted more or less for a year. They seemed nice and humble, but in reality, they were shady and untruthful. The company began to falter because of poor management and zero intention to prioritize. Billy was your baby-faced next-door neighbor type. He looked about 10 years younger and had a kind smile. He was soft-spoken and had an artistic and creative flair to him. Gigi looked matronly, with a Mother Earth incarnate attitude towards her children. She prided herself on being ruthless when it came to giving her family only the best. She could be really nice when she wanted to, but I found out early on that she was 100% apt at gossip and being two-faced. The company's constant changes were a red flag. They went from business services plus PR agency to IT provider to a business incubator and indie beer partners. What I'm trying to say is that they tried to dip their donut in everyone's coffee, figuratively. Some of us had no real way to escape. The lady working next to me was already 67 years old and scared that no one would hire her. I wasn't in a great place either. We were 8 employees in total. They wouldn't lay anyone off because they believed that the employee should quit. They paid us only a portion of our salaries, incomplete weekly payments. Employees would run for the hills once they found a better job. Some of us were stuck. It was horrible. Then they would pay the normal rate for a month and then do it again. They never cut down on their luxury expenses, so the wife would post her shopping sprees or arrive in a new car like it was nothing. Zero empathy. Very insensitive. The husband was obsessed with making it big time, so much that he sometimes failed to see an opportunity right in front of him. He said he was Coca-Cola's brand manager. I swear I looked it up and could never find any reference. Gigi had a display full of small local magazines, mostly about design and architecture. They were very proud to be a team member, but in reality, they just helped them print 2 issues. They wanted big business only. But in the meantime, looked down upon tangible potential clients, like the young Latino couple who showed up trying to learn more about their services. They seemed lost because they wanted someone to help them set up a coffee business and had no idea how it was done. I talked to them and helped them in the waiting room. They even showed up with their baby in a stroller. That means they must have driven by and decided to come in. An impulsive client should be retained. The guy said his grandpa had a farm and he wanted to create an import/exports company. Once Billy showed up, he listened for a bit, then kind of gave them a kind of abrupt dismissal. It was a D move because that couple opened their own business with someone else and even have a Facebook page. It could have been Billy. Billy lined his office walls with posters of Steve Jobs and Elon Musk. His wife, the chief enabling officer, put up signs on each room. The main employee area was the machine room. Billy's office was the chamber. The conference room was a meeting of the minds. Every time an employee disagreed with Billy during a brainstorming session, Gigi would call them aside and tell them that Billy is your boss. You need to know that he's brilliant and a genius. I want him to have that taste of success. I experienced that firsthand. I also hated brainstorming because that was never on my job description. They just wanted to pick everyone's brains. In the meantime, we had to see the Pandora jewelry, the expensive makeovers for their daughters, and the weekend at the spa updates on Facebook. Gigi's captions were usually about rewarding herself after a hard week or because she deserved it. Oh, and I'd like to mention that they bought into the social guru phrases about emotional direction. So if an employee ever got angry, Gigi would tell you, remember, the one who gets angry is the one who ends up losing. For anyone who's been in this situation, you may understand how painful it can be. You cannot leave the job because you have no other job waiting for you, and as pathetic as it may sound to some income is better than no income at all. This is an involuntary compromise and it's abusive. Why were we expected to pay for their luxuries via incomplete wages? My best friend's ex is into coding and programming, and he agreed to help. If it didn't work out, at least we'd have something to laugh about. We created a kick-butt fake website with a matching LinkedIn and the whole 9 yards. To make a long story short, this was supposed to be an investment company, and my friend would be very casual. Nothing too eager. He started by liking my employer's Facebook page, then comment. Before we knew, my boss took the bait and was engaging. They exchanged emails, and he was eager to share all his projects and ambitious crap. On the other side, the investor sent him a list of requirements like proof of concept, employer payroll, EIN number, etc. The investor agreed to work them if they could prove they were legit and up to date. No bank account of confidential info was asked. Within 3 weeks, I was paid the equivalent to 2.5 months I was owed. The investor did an about-face and never contacted him again. I left the job as soon as I could. My friend, who remained until she got paid, told me our boss seemed off and a bit down after he announced big things are coming, but it all seemed to deflate. I never disclosed what was really going on. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one.